right? Where like they've adopted not only your lingo, but they've adopted your methodology.
Yeah.
They've now been able to pass it on. I mean, literally, that is the discipleship process, right? Like you're creating many disciples, and to know that what you are discipling around is connected to the Father, it's like you're that much more proud. You become the proud parent versus they copied me, or they're running on their own way and they've never come back and said thank you. But meanwhile, you're chattering in their head and you're keeping them as a driving force of momentum towards that vision. And that is legacy. That is something that you'll never know how many people you touch. Someone I had on the show before, that Jerry Maguire, the movie was made after him. His name is Dave Meltzer.
Dave Meltzer.
Yes,
Boy, he's one of my favorite people on the planet, Tamra.
He's incredible. Yeah. So he was sharing about how his goal, his mission is to unlock happiness for 1 billion people. And to understand that it's 1,000 people. That's all we have to touch is 1,000 people, for 1,000 people to touch 1,000 people. And those 1,000 touch 1,000, that's 1 billion people. And when he said that to me, it really changed my perspective on a lot of things when it comes to this number-driven society that we live in. Like everything is about the follows, the likes, the how many friends you have. And it's like, no, that's not even the point. It's about the intimacy factor. It's about the connection factor. If Jesus could do it with 12 disciples, then we should be able to do it with 12 disciples. And actually even less, because he says the power that was in me, you have greater is in you that was in me. And therefore we have a multiplication factor and an authority to stand in that even Jesus didn't have at the time, right? So like, if we own that and we recognize how impactful our voice is, and that's where out of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? And so that's what's so critical about us being in the word, of the word, even if we're speaking to the world.
Right. Yeah. And now it's really awesome to see Laurel stepping all into that.
Yes.
Because Laurel obviously speaks to a different generation and a whole different language. But now they're seeing in her that strength and that power. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to see it. We had no idea this was how this was going to, like Laurel said, no idea that we would be doing this together, that she would be becoming a speaker. She was on a whole different path until this happened and we launched the book. And so it's
wow
to see her.
And Laurel, let's talk about that, because I think that happens to people more often than not, is that they're in the fast track to this vision, to this location, and something drastic happens, good or bad. And they're like, they rethink, they recalculate. They're really in that recalibration zone of, holy cow, everything I used to know, I no longer know. And everything I thought I couldn't know, I now know. And what do I do with this knowledge? So I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually in the wedding industry for a couple of years after college. You know, it's actually kind of a way that I started finding joy in my life again after my dad had passed. I really felt like that was a place that I thrived in events. And, you know, I felt like that was a good career for me to be in at the time. And when we decided to write this book, I thought, okay, we're just going to share our story. It's going to touch a few people, and then we'll just, you know, let God kind of take it from there. We don't need to do anything else. Like, he's got it, whatever. And I actually got asked to speak on a youth and young adult summit. And this was the first instance that I was being asked to speak. And I thought, oh, okay, you want my mom and I to come on and like talk about the book? She said, no, I want you to share your story to these young adults. And I was really intimidated by this, because I thought, okay, well, I can tell what I've been through, but like, what do I want them to get out of it? And I really do feel like this was such a God thing now, seeing and looking back on it, and how I've shared this many times over, was that I really wanted people to go back to that perspective piece. You know, I dove a little bit further into the vision and being able to move forward, but I feel like people needed to work backwards a little bit. So I created an exercise where people shift what if in their life to the what is, which I was holding on to so much of the what if of, what if my dad had not passed? You know, what if I'd moved back to Colorado? All these things that I thought were going to be my life. And I had to seek the good parts out of that and to visually see how I could counteract that. And so I started seeing how, when I was able to let go of the past and move forward and look at the good things, I was allowing God to show me how he was going to still bring joy into my life and still bring purpose in my life, even all these things had happened before.